Hey guys, it's Tom M from Tabletop Republic, and I am here with my friend Alex,
Hello.
and we are going to go through the 5 recently revealed Commander 2021 decks. We're going to go through each of the 5 decks, give our initial reaction. Alex, what have you got for each of the 5 decks? You're doing something special?
Yeah, so every single C21 card has 15 new cards that you could move into any deck you want. And that is what I'm going to be doing, telling you what some decks you should be looking out for to put this in, or other decks that you should maybe avoid putting this in,
Yeah.
and some equivalents of the new cards as well.
Yeah, and then I will be going through a couple of cards for each deck, which you should add in. So cards that weren't reprinted or reprinted in these upcoming decks that I think you should grab hold of and put them in the deck, take out some of the, less good reprints or less good new cards. Yeah, we'll jump straight in, I think. We're going to go in order of when they were revealed. So first up, we'll go to your favourite initial deck, Alex, Lorehold Legacies.
Yeah, I'm a massive sucker for Lorehold. This is the rebrand for Boros, in my opinion, of where I think they're going to be taking it going forward, or at least I hope that they take it going forward. Um, Artifacts. This deck cares so much about artifacts. Um, some of the new cards are Alibu Ancient Witness, Lochiel Clockwork Scholar, and Lelia, the Blade Reforged.
Yeah, it's definitely some good new ones in this. It's slightly similar to the Commander Legends deck Arm for Battle, but while that one was more about sort of like just more Voltron style, just equipping all your things to one card. This one
Yeah.
cares about a few different things, sort of like creating tokens of artifacts and then artifacts in graveyards.
It's sort of just getting value off of what would be mana rocks, which are already so. The most ideal situation for Lorehold with Osgir as the commander is you put down a land, you play a Soul Ring, already a great start in any commander game.
Yep.
Um, your following turn, you put down the other color land, and then you tap 4, and you play your commander on 2, which is insane. Now, the only thing that can make it more insane is that the following turn, you can sacrifice your Soul Ring and then bring back your Soul Ring to have 2,
Yeah, that's
which, wow, you have no idea how excited I am for that.
yeah, it's going to be quite strong, I reckon.
Yeah.
I think
So, there are other cards in the deck, though, not just the commanders.
yeah. What are your
Um,
favourite ones?
my favorite ones, Monologue Tax. It's a great stacks piece that doesn't feel that bad for your opponents.
Yeah, it's not like
It
Smothering Tithe where they're just like, oh, you've got it out, therefore we need to kill you.
Yeah, so much more room to breathe. However, still a good value engine. 3 mana now, 3 mana later. Like it usually pays for itself in one turn,
Oh yeah,
so
absolutely.
it'll work out. Cursed Mirror. It is a red artifact for 2 and a red. You can tap it, add a red mana, and also when it ETBs, you can have it enter as a copy of any creature until end of turn.
Yeah,
Except
it's
as
very
haste.
strong.
So your opponent's Gouter? Oh, I'll take a Gouter for a turn. Or anything else with a big ETB effect? Yeah, sure, I'll do that once. And I'll have that for the turn. Then I have a mana rock afterwards.
Yeah, that's
Um,
the good thing is even if there is nothing good on the battlefield, or you can't really do anything with the creature as it comes in, you still got a free red mana every turn.
hmm And then the main one that I've seen a lot of discussion online about, and a card that's probably going to become a mono white staple, Archaeomancer's Map. It
Yeah, I love
is
this.
2 and a white. When it enters the battlefield, search your library for 2 basic planes, reveal them, put them into your hand, then shuffle. That's a cultivate for white, which they didn't have before. Bit of a slower cultivate, but it's a cultivate nonetheless. But there's more text on it. Whenever a land enters the battlefield, so whenever a land enters the battlefield under an opponent's control, if that player controls more lands than you, you may put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield. So that in multicolored decks, that is shock lands, that is triomes, that is any land that you want to put down. And in mono white, that's the 2 planes you just put into your hand. So
it's it's going to be incredibly useful against especially things like Simic decks where they're ramping 5 times every turn. Like, against a Tatiova deck or something landfall based one, it's going to be ridiculous.
Exactly. You are not going to have lands in your hand against a Tatiova or a landfall based deck.
Yeah,
because you'll be able to keep up, well, to a degree. And then again, because of what this deck wants to do, you can sacrifice it, copy it, make 2 of them. So then you're putting 2 lands into the battlefield every time someone puts down a land, as long as they have more than you. So I cannot wait for Lorehold. There are some other cards. However, there's one card that I think that it should be a must take out for every single person. In my opinion, it does not belong in the deck, and that is Layla the Blade Reforged. She is a 2 and a red hasty spirit warrior. She's a 2/2. Whenever she attacks, exile the top card of your library. You may play this card this turn. So impulse draw that you have to use that turn. Whenever you exile 1 or more cards from your library or your graveyard, put +1/+1 counters on Lelia. So she swings. She's a 3/3 for free. Not bad. However, with the other abilities in the deck, there's not that many that care about the exile. Or exiling things. The only one that actually does that is Osgir, I believe, or at least the only one that can do that with much consistency is Osgir. So at most, she'll become a 5/5 that without trample or anything like that. I think she belongs in another deck that cares about impulse drawing a lot each turn.
Yeah, I think they definitely made the card to be a commander of a deck, and they were just like, we can't really think of that many cards to add to it if it was a precon, and so they just shoved it in this deck because it doesn't fit with any kind of. I mean, apart from Osgir exiling cards from graveyards, there's nothing that really matches with it. But on it by its own, it's definitely a good card.
Oh, 100%. But yeah, it needs work. Speaking of this being a precon, the best thing to do to a precon is upgrading it. So,
yeah.
What do you think?
Perfect segue.
I'll try my best.
So I have a couple of cards you can add. So one of the cards that we spoke about that should definitely been in it because it's not even that expensive and it's weird that they didn't add it in is Buried Ruin, the land.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's currently a 25 cent, 25p card with an amazing activated ability that just, why is this not in the deck?
Yeah, 2 tap and sacking the land. You can get an artifact from your graveyard to your hand. It's very useful in this deck.
Instant speed, like someone's trying to exile your graveyard, you go, oh, I don't want you to exile that card.
Yeah, it's good, especially if you don't have because Osgir, because it's not an artifact land, annoyingly, it's just a normal land. You won't be able to create tokens of it.
Yeah.
But yeah,
it's worthwhile, and I was waiting for the deck list to come out before I pre-ordered any of my products, and when I saw it wasn't in there, I almost flipped my table. I was like, why is this not in there? It's a slam dunk.
Yeah, especially when they've got they've got lands in the deck which are more expensive. Like they've got Ancient Den, Battlefield Forge, Great Furnace, a few other kind of ones where Even like Rogue's Passage, which doesn't really fit.
Yeah,
Just swap
exactly.
out
Like,
the Rogue's Passage for a Buried Ruin. They're both tap for colorless.
or like the Slayer Stronghold, which gives someone something double strike in this deck for some reason.
Yeah.
I, I don't. I'm not going to say that Wizards, like, they obviously know the balance better than I do. Maybe it would have. Maybe you never know. Maybe this one card puts it over the edge,
Yeah.
but I don't know.
Speaking of putting over the edge, I think there's a few good cards that you could definitely add to make it proper CEDH style and start building it to be a lot more competitive. One of them is Goblin Welder,
Mm.
another card that we've spoken about before, where you just tap him and swap an artifact from your battlefield from a graveyard. And again, just it's very similar to Buried Ruin, where you're just sacking something to get an artifact back. But obviously it's a creature, so it's a tiny bit better. You could use it as a chump blocker.
Yep.
Um,
Multi-purpose.
yeah. Then all these are alphabetical, so I'm just literally going down the list that I've made. Next up is one that, I mean, it's pretty much perfect for this deck. Helm of the Host.
Ooh.
Create some token. I mean, it fits with pretty much all the decks because quite a lot of these precons care about tokens.
Hmm.
But you get copies of every combat you get a token that's copy of the equipped creature, except it's not legendary and it has haste.
Yeah.
Um, and so equip it to Osgear, and you get multiple Osgears.
A lot more exiling in your graveyards. Nice.
Yeah, and there's a fair amount of creatures in the precon, which is good for an artifact-based deck.
Oh yeah, because there needs to be a critical mass of both creatures and artifact creatures, because otherwise you will run out of targets with Osgear.
Yeah, and or equip Helm to a Hellkite Tyrant. Just be really annoying.
Which I'm looking forward to seeing. I wanted to have a Hellkite Tyrant for so long. I wanted to have so many of the artifact creatures that they're putting in this deck. Where I'm like, oh yes, yes please.
Yeah.
So, Lorehold's definitely my college, and I cannot wait to start wrecking you with this deck.
Oh god, yeah, it's going to be bad to play against. Another card you can add is Junk Diver, because when it dies, return artifact from your graveyard to your hand, again along the similar theme.
Yeah, recursion without exiling.
Yep, and along this another similar line, one that I'm surprised they didn't add back in because it was reprinted semi-recently, and again fits the theme perfectly. Is Open the Vaults. Sorcery for 4 and 2 white. Return all artifact and enchantment cards from all graveyards to the battlefield under their owner's control.
Well, that is because they actually put a new card in the deck for this.
Oh yeah, that one's Wake the Past, isn't it?
Yeah, Wake the Past. 5 and red white. Return all artifacts from your graveyard to the battlefield. They gain haste until end of turn.
Yeah,
So
for one more mana, it only affects
you and only affects your artifact. Which in this deck, again, like we said, you have a critical mass. And also, you don't want to be exiling all your artifacts that you put in there. Some of them you do want to bring back at some point. Yeah, so that's why I think with expensive mass recursion, 7 mana, you should only have one of it in the deck, and I think Wake the Past is the perfect card for this level of recursion that you would need in this deck.
Yeah, that's fair. Next up, I've got Pyre's Revolution. It's a 2 and a red enchantment. Whenever a non-token artifact is put into your graveyard from the battlefield, return that card to your hand unless target opponent has Pyre's Revolution, deal 3 damage to them.
Okay, so it's either you take 3 or I get to have my Blightsteel Colossus back.
Yeah, so it's
or have a big scary thing.
It's similar to the I can't remember the name from the top of my head. Uh, quick Google, hopefully. Athreos, God of Passage.
Oh, is that the gold coin one?
No, it's the original Athreos.
Oh,
Whenever another creature you own dies, return it to your hand unless target opponent pays 3.
and we've seen how good that is with like Shadowborn Apostles and that sort of thing. So that's
Yeah,
along a similar line.
that's a strong commander, and that like it's a quite a hidden card. It's only according to Architect, it's only 35 cents,
Okay,
and
nice.
so just a cheap little budget upgrade that could be handy. Um,
Gives you a lot of value.
yeah, and then a final card that I think you should add. Pretty pretty similar to the Triplicate Titan that's in the precon.
Hmm.
But it's an all-time classic worm coil engine.
Yeah,
Of course,
I can confirm that Wormcoil Engine in this deck is amazing. Yeah, it can give you. I thankfully already had a copy from Double Masters, and I put it in the deck as soon as I found out about it, and I was so happy. It works so well. It's a great beta. It's a great body. Um, and at some point you can get 2 of them.
Yeah, so it's 3 mana cheaper than Triplicate Titan. Uh, has what does Triplicate Titan do? It's 1 flying, 1 vigilance, 1 trample, and this
Yeah.
one's 1 with lifelink, 1 with death touch. So you can add both, definitely add both, but Wormcoil is definitely a fan favorite one.
Very much so. Um, Before we move on to the other
Yeah.
classes, there are multiple new mechanics within Strixhaven, the set itself. One of them is Ward. So, for example, on Bronze Guardian, it has Ward 2. Whenever this creature becomes the target of a spell or an opponent controls, counter it unless that player pays 2. So it's a way of your creatures protecting their stuff and your own stuff and that sort of thing. Bronze Guardian is another great deterrent for people, another tax thing. But there's also another whole new mechanic exclusive to the C21 product called Demonstrate.
Yeah.
So in the Lorehold deck, it is an excavation technique. Demonstrate. When you cast a spell, you may copy it. If you do, choose an opponent to also make a copy. Players may choose new targets for their copies. So, for example, Tom M is very much ahead. I play excavation technique, and I choose one of his things, which allows me to destroy it. So, sorry, I should probably read what the actual ability does. Destroy target non-land permanent. Its controller creates 2 treasure tokens. So, like I said, I target one thing. I choose another person in the pod that we're playing with to do another. So we are now able to destroy 3 things, which is amazing. However, the downside is that we just gave Tom 6 mana.
Yeah.
In some of the other precons that we'll get to, Demonstrate it's a great new ability. I look forward to it because it lets you spread the love or the hate. But excavation technique needs to be taken out of your precon, I think, because giving them 2 treasures per thing you blow up, unless it's their late game and you get this late game, just put in a generous gift or any other 3 mana instant speed removal spell instead. Because
Yeah.
that is, you get rid of the biggest thing, you give them a little bit of an upside, and it's at instant speed, so before they can protect it. This is at sorcery speed for 1 extra mana, and they get mana ramp off it.
Yeah, I feel like if it's in a deck based around copying spells, it's definitely add it in, but there
yeah.
are better destruction cards. I do like it, and I do like the giving them treasure rather than things like Assassin's Trophy where it gives them land, because at least the treasure is one use. So
Fair. I just think I don't personally like the amount they give you.
yeah, it is two
Like,
treasure is slightly odd, which is weird.
yeah,
Like,
so yeah, we destroy 3 of your things. You get 6 mana to refill your board with. 6 mana is a board wiper for yourself of any level. 6 mana is 1 mana off of Wake the Past. So
yeah,
yeah, there's a lot. I'm like, but I love the new demonstrate.
yeah, and the deck in general is very good.
Oh, very much so.
It's definitely one of the top two. If
In,
not, I think in
yeah.
your opinion, it'll be top one.
Oh, 100%. Law hold for life.
Yeah, it's good. It does make me like Boros a bit more. I've got a Boros deck at the minute, which is Arden and Rokra, which is a Voltron artifact deck.
Yeah.
But I feel like I wouldn't buy this deck as a precon. I'd take it apart. But I think you're gonna add to
Oh,
it.
100%. I built a Osgear deck as soon as I found out about him because I was so excited for it. And yeah, I've been playing it on with friends and different servers. I'm just like, oh, this feels right.
Yeah, I'm
I,
looking forward to it.
I would definitely play it as Wizards intended, as a precon first before I take it apart.
Yeah, because there might be some cards where it's like, oh, wow, this is actually really good.
Yeah, but after I've taken it apart, no going back.
Yeah. All right, let's go on to the next deck. So the next one is Prismari Performance.
Mm-hmm.
So it's led by Zafai Thunder Conductor, or is it Thunder Collector? Depends on whether you're looking at the.
I was thinking it. I wasn't gonna bring it up, but yeah,
It's like
like
they messed up the. I think it's just the online image is messed up. I believe that they confirmed that the actual
yeah,
text is right.
they've already all called it. If not,
Yeah.
of
So
yeah.
he's a 1/4 with Magecraft. So whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, and that's just the general Magecraft thing, and then something happens, his bit is scry 1. If the spell you scried CMC is 3 or greater, you get a 4/4 blue and red elemental token creature. But if its CMC was 10 or greater, it deals 10 damage to an opponent chosen at random. So it's a big spells matter spell slinger deck, which I think is quite different to quite a lot of the blue red decks.
Mm. It's definitely different to what they usually like to do. Is it slash Pismari is usually, like you say, all about spell slinging or cloning, copying, that sort of thing. Or in the case of Bruderclad, copying artifacts. Yeah, like I say, this deck is all about getting big, lots of mana on the field, and doing something huge and exuberant, like the Prismari would intend.
Yeah,
So there's a few new cards in here which I am kind of excited for, though I must admit this is the precon that I am least excited for. I think
I would say the same. Yeah,
it is definitely a good precon. However, in terms of reprints, it's not that great. And I don't personally like the Prismari is it color what they want to do, because eventually all the decks feel the same to me.
mm.
It is just, can I put enough counter spells? Can I put enough instants and sorceries in this deck to win faster? But however, there are many great cards in this that I'm looking forward to. So the 3 new legendaries in this deck. Veyran, Voice of Duality, 3 mana 2/2 make with Magecraft. Whenever you cast or copy an instance a sorcery, it gets +1/+1 until end of turn. And casting instants and sorceries that causes triggered abilities trigger an additional time. So, for example, Vryn, you put down the Vryn on 3, like on curve. Then you play a instance of sorcery, like a shock, on the next turn. Vryn now becomes a 4/4, and you played a shock. So, if you get out of control quickly, I think, for her. Other commanders are Octavia, Living Thesis. It is an 8/8. It's a 10 mana 8/8 elemental octopus. This spell costs 8 less to cast if you have 8 or more instants and sorcery cards in your graveyard. Now, if it was just that, I would probably slam this in many Delirium or self-milled decks.
Yeah, it's a good card just for that first ability alone.
Then it has Ward 8, which is the protecting you if an opponent targets it with an ability or spell. So you are never getting rid of Octavia through direct single target removal unless you want to pay so much more for it.
Yeah, it's essentially just it having hexproof, because you're rarely going to have 8 free mana just to spend to target a single creature.
Mm-hmm. And then, Magecraft, whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, target creature has base power 8/8 until end of turn. Hey, you know that mana dork that you've been using just to slowly ramp up? Yeah, it's an 8/8 now.
Yeah.
Which is nutty to me. Like, I'm like, oh, that's strong. And also, it's an octopus and sea creature, so Eric Smithy's Players with Joy is another thing to add to the pile.
Yeah, I shared it to my friend who's got a sea serpent octopus, and that tribal deck, and he was very happy.
Oh, I bet. And finally, the last commander you can play, you get in this is Ryona Fire Dancer. At the beginning, she is a 5 mana 3/4 human wizard, which could be what's the word? Appropriate, not appropriate. Meaningful. There we go. Creature type for tribal purposes. So she has at the beginning of your combat, create X tokens that are copies of another target creature you control, where X is 1 plus the number of instants and sorcery spells you've cast this turn. They gain haste, exile them at the beginning of the next end step. So for this, it's about just storming off in one turn and then making a big creature or lots of little creatures that can slam in for the win if you don't take them out with Storm already.
I feel like the secondary commanders you get in this deck are a lot better than Zephyr.
Yeah. The precon is definitely built for Zephyr, but in terms of out of precon in the wild of Commander, Zephyr is quite weak. As much as I don't want to say that, but yeah, he's weak.
Like, essentially, with him, you wouldn't want any, or not a lot of instant sorceries with CMC 4 or below.
Yeah,
which means you have to ramp up quickly, and it's not that easy in blue-red.
Like it's the same problem with Boros and Lorehold. You need the artifacts to get your wheel spinning that quickly, and if you don't get them, you might be floundering for a while.
Yeah, I think it's definitely gonna, like, if you played this deck without any upgrades whatsoever, it would struggle.
Yeah. However, there are other cards that people might find it interesting. Yep. So this card, I will put money on this. So thank God we have this in recording
No take backs.
Yeah, no takebacks. Elementalist Palette, 3 mana artifact. Whenever you cast a spell with X in its mana cost, put 2 charge counters on Elemental Palace. So that's its ability, passive ability. Then you can either tap it for 1 mana of any color. So it's a commander sphere at that point. 3 mana, pay 1. Well, that's whatever. However, it has another ability. Tap it. Add colorless for each charge counter on Elemental's palette. Spend this mana only on costs that contain X.
Yeah.
This will go in every X matter deck for the rest of time.
Oh yeah, I am 100% getting this for my Zaxara X cost tribal deck.
Exactly. Hydras rejoice. Big X spells rejoice. Like Finale of Devastation. Yes. Yep. You just ramped up a bit quicker. This deck is going to be. This card is going to be so good in those decks because if nothing else, it is just fixing for one of your colors.
Yeah.
It's not effective because it's inefficient, but at the same time, that passive ability will get out of control fast in like little decks, like Hydra Krasis for X equaling 2 or 1. That's a 1 mana draw 1, gain 1 life, and you get 2 charge counters on this thing. Like little values will make this insane.
Yeah, it's probably one of the better cards you can get in this deck, and the weird bit is that I think from what I can see on Goldfish, there are literally only 2 cards in this deck which have X in their mana cost.
Yeah.
So you could tell they made this card. It was too late to put it in something like Commander Legends or something.
Yeah.
They were just like, let's get it out quickly because
Yeah.
it doesn't fit this deck whatsoever. It's weird.
Another one that I think it could be good. You might be able to win out of nowhere with it. Reinterpret. It's the counter spell for this precon.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of talk about this one.
Counter target spell. You may cast a spell with an equal or lesser mana value from your hand without paying its mana cost. Mana value and CMC are the same thing.
Yeah, they've just made it reduced one word from it.
Yeah. And that is for 2 blue and a red. It's a counter spell. I don't know how good it is. Maybe I'm seeing it through the Prismari colors. Like, is it colors? And we're going like, yeah, it's not too bad with the other counter spells that are quicker and more efficient. But at the same time, because I mean, like holding up 4 mana, you're just gonna people know what's coming. And
yeah, especially if they know that you've got this precon. If they see a blue and a red and 2 of any color untapped, you're just like, oh, I don't want to play my big card.
Exactly, because then they get the big stuff. So it's all about timing for this. But at the same time, the only way to get rid of a counter spell is through it. So
yeah,
that I'm optimistic about it. I'm not as hyped about it as everyone else might be.
Yeah, and it's the only card in the deck which is more than I think more than $4.
Oh wow! Really?
It shows how sort of not weak this deck is, but how little good reprints or staples there are in this deck.
And finally, the last card I want to talk about in a sec is the Demonstrate card. Creative Technique has Demonstrate. Shuffle your library and then reveal cards from the top of your library, from the top of it until you reveal a non-land card. Exile that card and put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. You may cast the exile card without paying its mana cost. That's a 5 mana sorcery. That is insane.
It is good, yeah. I like this.
However, why on earth would you ever let your opponents ever do that once? Like, in my opinion, this like the only way because it's non-land, so they can't even whiff because you can't whiff. The only way you whiff is that you hit like a artifact that does nothing in the board state.
Yeah.
While they get any number of creatures. Green is a very prevalent color within Magic, and they have big stompy boys. Or thank you for getting my combo piece out. Like,
Yeah, there's a lot of downsides that can happen if you do decide to let your opponent copy it. However, the fact that they will have to shuffle their library, it could be good if they've got if they've scryed and they know they've got something good on top.
or they've tutors, I guess. Yeah, yeah. Creative technique is definitely very good. Like swinging the board, maybe, but I don't know if it will see much play.
It is very situational.
Yeah, like I guess you choose. You have to choose like a similar deck to you of just like I think this goes in most Teemo decks where you care about big creatures. Like I think a lot of the demonstrate cards you want to put in a different deck.
Yeah.
But those are my opinion, and I'm a random dude on the internet. So speaking of different decks, what do you add to make this orchestra play a bit sweeter?
Yeah, so I had a look around. There's a few cards which I think could be good. One of the things I think that could be good is just swapping out the commander entirely.
Okay.
Uh, there is a card that I saw which, fits this theme perfectly, and it is Mizzix of the Magnus.
Mm.
He is a goblin wizard for 2 blue red. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery with a CMC greater than the number of experience counters you have, you get an experience counter. And then instant and sorcery spells you cast cost 1 less for each experience counter you have.
Yeah. So it cares about ramping up your spell level. It cares about the amount doing the big stuff, and you get to cost stuff for less and less as your time goes on. So the big X spells, they could cost what 6 mana can get you a X spell that costs you 10. That would be like X equals 10. That's good to me.
Yeah, it's it's especially good because you'll want to play him really early, and then
Yeah.
play your lower CMC spells to ramp and stuff. And as long as he stays on the board, he gets pretty big. And the experience counters, don't go away, so you could just replay him, and
Mm.
automatically all your sorceries will cost X less. Then another one is a commander you could replace him as the commander, or you could just add him to your deck. Is Melek? Is it Paragon? So he's from well, he was, I can't remember if he's from or whether he was reprinted in last year's commander.
Mm-hmm.
He's 4 blue red. Play with the top card of your library revealed. You can cast instants and sorceries from the top of your library, and whenever you cast an instant or sorcery from your library, copy it, and you can choose new targets for the copy.
Okay.
So it's another one of those cards where I think you'd probably add it into the deck rather than making it your commander.
Mm.
And he is slightly expensive, costing 6 mana, but you know if you've got all these big spells, the fact that you can see what it is, obviously all your opponents will also see what it is, but you'll be able to, copy it if you want to play it from the top. There's sort of different options you can take. Then another card you could add is the enchantment Arcane Melee. It's 4 and a blue. It's just instant and sorceries cost 2 less to cast.
Oh, that's
It applies to everyone, so it does include your opponents. Their stuff would be reduced by 2.
mm.
But could be a bit of politics you could throw in there, being like, if you don't get rid of it, all your stuff is cheaper.
Stuff that sort of spell I love just because it helps your deck to get ahead like 100%. Like it definitely benefits you. But it might not benefit your opponents as much. Like sometimes people don't run that many instants and sorceries.
Yeah.
And if they do, they're usually low CMC, so the mana value reduction won't be that much.
Yeah. So the first card I said was a Mizzix. This one is the sorcery based around Mizzix called Mizzix's Mastery. So it's 3 and a red. Exile target card that's an instant or sorcery from your graveyard, and for each card exiled this way, copy it, and you can cast the copy without paying its mana cost.
Okay,
and
so
then exile the Mastery.
Yep. So it has. So like say use the shock example. Put a shock in there. Use Mystic's Mastery on it. Do cast 2 shocks. Right.
Yeah. So then it's got an overload ability for 5 and 3 red. So that way you will exile all your instant sorceries from your graveyard, and you can cast all of them as copies.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of graveyard recursion in this. There's a couple of things, but like with all Spellslinger decks, once you've played them, you're probably going to keep them in your graveyard. So being able to exile them from your graveyard, pay 8 mana for all those 8, 10 mana, 9 mana sorceries you've already got could be pretty good. It's definitely a late game win con.
Yeah, very much so.
Then 2 more. You've got Mnemonic Deluge from Commander Legends. 6 and 3 blue for a sorcery. Exile instant or sorcery from your graveyard. Copy it 3 times, and you can cast those copies for free. Just another similar card to Mystic's Mastery. Just if you've got a particular card in your graveyard that is really good, something that could just destroy everyone. I mean, trying to look through, see what there is, like any of the token summoners, Brass's bounty, so you get triple treasure tokens or something.
Which I'm here for.
Yeah. Of course, it's artifact copying. Of course, you like it.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
And then finally, 1,000-Year Storm.
I was waiting for it.
Yeah, of course I've got to add it. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, copy it for each one cast before it, and you can choose new targets. It won't happen a lot in this deck because with all the mana costs, it will be you're playing only 1 or 2 spells per turn.
But hopefully, with 1 or 2 spells you do cast, it'll be more than worth it.
Yeah, so just try and get as many copies in. You might as well try and copy the spells if you can only cost 1 spell because it costs so much. But yeah, that's the Prismari deck. I think we both said it's probably the worst of the 5.
Very least the worst in terms of precons and what it wants to do.
Yeah, I don't think there's trying to see if there's any reprints that are actually worth more than $1.
Yeah, like I think the only ones were the Chandra's goggles.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah. Pyromancer's goggles is $3.
Yeah,
and that's a good reprint. But yeah, this is definitely a deck you'll either have to add a lot to or just take all the good cards out.
Yeah.
And if I did get it, I'd just take all the good cards.
Fair enough. Hey Tom.
Yeah.
Do you like numbers?
I don't mind numbers.
Well, thankfully we're only going to be taking a stopping pass at Quandrix. Quandrix is the blue-green precon for this set. This one is all about tokens and making tokens and making copies of tokens. It is a all-round great time. The face commander is Adrix and Nev twin casters. It has the ward mechanic, ward 2. If 1 or more tokens would be created under your control, create that many tokens. Make twice that many tokens created instead. Yep. So doubling season on a stick.
Exactly. It is I love the commander. As soon as I saw it, I was like, this is going to be the best deck. But we'll have to dive into the cards, see what there is.
Very much so. So we'll talk about the one that I am both most excited for, and the one I was like, why are people undervaluing this online? Oversimplify.
Oh yeah, love it.
Exile. So this gets through Indestructible. It gets through Hexproof. It gets through everything. Exile all creatures. So obviously you don't want to do this when you have a full board, but if you do, it's not that bad. Each player creates a 0/0 green and blue fractal creature token and puts a number of +1/+1 counters on it equal to the amount total power of creatures they control that were exiled this way.
It is. Yeah, that is a very nice card.
So, but you go from them having a very wide and difficult to block board with like a bunch of scary things that have keywords to one thing that everyone can then go, okay, I can deal with that now. Like,
yeah,
it's a very
there's some downsides to it, definitely.
100%, but at the same time, definitely resets the board a bit more.
Yeah, it's good if like your opponent has a big threat, and you have a lot of stuff on the board, but you think that threat is definitely worth exiling your stuff because then you get your
you still get a big creature, and
yeah.
So the next one, Geometric Nexus. It's a 2-mana artifact. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, put a number of charge counters on Geometric Nexus equal to the mana value, the CMC. And then for 6 and tap, remove all charge counters, make a big fractal, and then put X +1/+1 creature tokens on it, counters on it. There we go. Where X is the amount of charges removed. So charge it up, make one big thing. I don't like that card.
It feels like it should be in the Prismari deck. Yeah.
Yeah, make like I 100% think like swap the Prismari and the Quandrix artifacts around, and you might actually have a decent deck.
Yeah.
Like they belong so much better in each other's deck that I don't know Quandrix's X cares. I don't think there's that many. Other cards to look out for. Ruxa, Patient Professor. It's a bear that cares about bears.
Yeah.
Something to note, though, is that all the fractal creatures that you make, all the tokens you make, are vanilla creatures, so they don't have any ability text on it.
Yeah.
So you can make them as big as you want and send them through, and then assign all the damage as though they weren't blocked. Great card. If not, you can just make more bear tribal jokes.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this deck. Like, it could definitely be very good.
So, another card to really look out for is Spawning Kraken. This is the one that I've seen more sea monster players be like, oh, yes, please. It's a 5-mana, it's a 6-mana 6/6 for 5 and a blue. Whenever a Kraken, Leviathan, Octopus, or Serpent you control deals combat damage to a player, create a 9/9 Kraken creature token.
It is. I like this, yeah.
Very much so.
Although I do have 2 problems with it.
Oh, okay.
Why is the Kraken a 9/9, not a 6/6? Because like the Octopus from the last deck was all about 8s. This one could be all about 6s because it costs 6 and it's a 6/6, but the Kraken's a 9/9. And also, why isn't it legendary? Come on. You have the perfect chance for it to be a commander.
Yeah.
But it is a good card.
Very much so. It goes in every single Sea Monsters deck.
Yeah.
Another one of the legendaries that are in this deck is Decker Fractal Theorist. Magecraft, whenever you cast an instant or copy an instant sorcery, create a 0/0 fractal creature token, and where X is the mana value. So this is a great spellslinger type commander where you just little thing, make a fractal, make a fractal, make a fractal, make a fractal, swing. Which in green blue, you don't have to worry about the mana value of things as much. The amount of ramp you can get is insane.
Yeah, I think this is a very underrated card.
I'm looking forward to, and also with the face commander, you can make 2 fractals every time you cast an instant or sorcery. That's not bad. It's gonna be a lot to keep track of, so I hope you have dice.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then finally, the big one that everyone is talking about, Essek Fractal Bloom. This one is making waves as it breaks Avenger of Zendikar more.
Always fun.
The first time you would create a 1 or more token, so it's a 6 mana 4/4 flying. The first time you would create one or more tokens during each of your turns, you may instead choose a creature other than itself and create that many token copies of that creature. So you play this on 6, you play down Avenger Zendikar on 7. Before the Avenger Zendikar ability resolves, Essek triggers. You target Avenger of Zendikar. You make 7 Avengers of Zendikar, and then you get all their ETBs as well.
Jesus Christ. Yeah, that is pretty strong.
Mm-hmm. So that is by far, out of all the commanders we've talked about so far, is the strongest in the C21 set.
Yeah, like I haven't properly read that. I just saw it was like token doublers. I was like, oh, that could be quite good. I didn't realize how powerful it could be. Like I'm just trying to think of all the different, ETB token generators I've got in my decks, and wow, yeah.
Also, this goes in most landfall decks.
Yep. Oh man.
I think. Like, don't get me wrong. Landfall makes a lot of little tokens, so you'd be triggering it only once every turn. But still, when you trigger it with something big, like oh boy,
yeah.
For the most part, that is the main ones I wanted to talk about. There was I lied. There was one more, 2 more actually. Theoretical duplication. Whenever a non-token creature enters the battlefield under an opponent's control, this turn create a token that's a copy of that creature. What would you say that is? A sorcery, enchantment, artifact?
Yeah, any of those would be, a good card.
No, so you just get whatever. No, this is an instant, so you can have your choice of when you play this. Of oh, you're playing your Dragon now? Yeah, why not? I'll take an Dragon.
Yeah, for 3 mana, being able to just be like, oh yeah, you're playing your best creature now. Cool, I'll have one too. Insane.
Yeah, check please. Only for 3 mana, so holding that mana up isn't very suspicious to a lot of players.
Yeah.
And then the last one that I really want to talk about, Paradox Zone. This card should never be printed on Arena, yet they print Scoot Swarm. Sorry. Paradox Zone enchantment for 5 mana. ETBs with a growth counter on it. At the beginning of your end step, double the amount of growth counters on Paradox Zone. Then create a 0/0 green and blue fractal creature tokens with the amount of counters on Paradox Zone. So, first turn, 2/2, 4/4, 6/6, 8/8, 16/16, 32/32. At your end step, every turn until it's removed.
Yeah, I like this. This is going straight in my Zaxara again, because then I'll get all the Hydras, because it doesn't come. It comes in, then you put the 1/1 counters on it.
Mm-hmm. Also, bring out your proliferation decks.
Oh yeah.
Start just ringing out the bell, ding da ding da ding da ding. Proliferation, come on out. Yeah. So most of the other cards, I definitely see a lot of power in the Quandrix deck.
Yeah, it is strong.
However, to me is boring again because it is just what Simic does. It's what Quandrix does. It cares about counters, it cares about drawing cards, and it cares about copying stuff, which is what they were doing anyway.
Yeah, it's not new, but it certainly is good.
100%. Speaking of some new things, what would you put in this deck to make it even better?
Yeah, so aside from the obvious things like Second Harvest, Parallel Lives, Doubling Season, all the other token doublers, you mentioned it earlier, Scoot Swarm. Just whenever a land comes into play, get a 1/1 green insect, but if you control 6 or more lands, which in Commander you likely will, you create a copy of Scoot Swarm instead, but then it's doubled and just
Can get out of control.
yeah, and it's pretty cheap for a card that broke standard.
And arena for a while.
Yeah. Then you've got Coma from Kaldheim.
Oh, lovely.
Beginning of each upkeep, you get a 3/3 Serpent, and you can sack a Serpent to either tap her permanent, and its activated abilities can't be activated, or Coma gains indestructible. But instead, you're getting, at least 2 Serpents, and so you can just tap down your whole opponent's board and swing in. It's that definite win con option there.
Mm-hmm.
One card that I did see that is quite cheap, it's from last year's Commander C20, is Curious Herd. So it's 3 and a green for an instant. Choose target opponent. You get X 3/3 beasts, where X is the number of artifacts that player controls.
Oh, so against me?
Exactly.
Oh no.
Yeah, I'm thinking like if you're playing, just all the upgraded precons against each other, that against the Lorehold deck, yes please.
Very much so. Yeah, that's insane. Also, been double the amount of that off that.
Yeah, and speaking of cards where it works with the other decks, you've got Arasta of the Endless Web, which is 2 green for a spider with reach. Whenever an opponent casts an instant or sorcery spell, create a 1/2 spider with reach.
Nice.
That against Prismari, is very nice. Just have both of those cards in there, and it's just like, oh, you breathed or you did something, thank you, I'll take some benefits.
Yeah, nice. And also a lot of like places to also expand from there. Like I think with those sort of cards in this sort of set, and tokens being made constantly, blue-green stacks might become a thing.
Yeah.
All these blue-green deterrent.
Yeah, so I am a fan of this deck. This is definitely very good. Obviously, there's a few, like quite a lot of the cards we didn't mention. Quite a lot of them are quite weird. I think there's some cards where you'll definitely take them out straight away, and there's a few cards that have come straight from the Gear Edge deck from a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
But I loved that deck, and I only just took it apart after 2 years of good service. So I might get this to replace it.
Fair enough. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's definitely a strong deck. Not sure how it will compete, but at the same time, I think there's a lot of room to grow.
Yeah, if I did get it, I would upgrade it rather than take it apart.
Yeah. Okay.
Right, up to Silver Quill now.
Oh.
Yeah, it's led up by Brina, the Demagogue. I don't know how do you pronounce that last one?
It's either like Demago or like maybe Demogorgon.
Yeah,
No.
Demagogue. Oh, I'm gonna call it that now.
Oh, you should
Get an author of the Stranger Things character.
Demagogue. There he is.
Do you want to take us through this deck?
Yes, this is the other deck I'm super excited for. They pitched it as white-black politics, and yes, it matches up, in my opinion. It's a 3-mana bird warlock. Flying whenever a player attacks one of your opponents, if that player has more life than another of your opponents that is attacking, that attacking player draws a card, and you, so the person who controls Demagogue, put 2 +1/+1 counters on a target creature you control. So Tom has the most life, and the opponent we're playing with swings at him. They draw a card, and I put 2+1/+1 counters on it. That's just insane.
Yeah, it's definitely a good commander. I do love a good old politics deck.
Civil is all about war of words, and and politics is a perfect fit for that. Some cards to talk about. Tempting Contract for 4-mana artifact. At the beginning of your upkeep, each opponent may, so it's an optional ability, create a treasure token. That seems good. For each opponent who does, you create a treasure token. And this is at the beginning of your upkeep. So potentially, if every opponent takes a treasure, you make 3 treasures before your turn.
Yeah, this is very nice. It's a bit like a Tempt with Discovery type card.
Yeah, Tempt with Vengeance, Tempt with Discovery, the Tempt cycle is back in full swing with Tempting Contract. Another one, which I think is really good, Ink Shield. It's a 5-mana instant for 3 white/black. Prevent all combat damage that would be dealt to you this turn. So it's a fog in white/black, not bad. For each 1 damage prevented this way, create a 2/1 white/black Inkling creature token with flying. So you're swinging at me for 20 damage. I'm going to make 20 2/1s that will swing back on the crackback.
Yeah.
All with flying. So I hope you have some reach. I think in a situation, potentially very good. Great against Voltron decks that want to one-shot you with commander damage, or just big green X creatures.
Yeah, the problem is you do have to hold up 5 mana, but I think the benefit definitely outweighs the cost.
I definitely can see you winning a lot of games with the card, though, of like people just wanting to end you with like a big stompy creature. They've rampaged over all your opponents. Like they have Galter and like the dinosaur tribal or something, and they hit you with a load of stuff. And Ink Shield, prevent all that damage. I gain all this, swing for lethal. I can see a lot of situations like that happening.
The thing I like about it as well is that the Inklings are 2/1s. So it's essentially, in terms of attacking, if they have no flying blockers, essentially like having double the amount of 1/1s.
The demonstrate card for this one is very good. Incarnation Technique has demonstrate. Mill 5 cards and then return a card from your graveyard to the battlefield. And you could end up milling 10 and returning 1 thing. And if you choose the Prismari player, who doesn't have a lot of creatures, they could get like they get 1 creature back and maybe mill a few good spells. Like I really like this one.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the better demonstrate ones.
Maybe it's not. I don't know how many that in terms of recursion there are in this deck, and like how many ways you can put stuff in the graveyard. But I am here for it because mill 10 cards, bring 2 things back is decent. Very good.
Yeah.
Also, you could potentially win off it. Another one, scholarship sponsor. This will go in every single mono white for the rest of the time. You can quote me on that.
Oh no, it is very nice.
When scholarship sponsor enters the battlefield, each player who controls fewer lands than the green-blue player, the player who controls the most lands.
No, yeah, you said the same thing twice.
Yeah. Search their lands for a number of basic lands. Basic land cards less than or equal to the difference. Put them onto the battlefield tapped. So they get 20 lands out in 6 turns because it's green-blue, or landfall or what have you. Like this is so good against Omnath decks and fetch decks in general, land decks in general. And then everybody goes up to that level, and you go, "Hey, I can ramp us all if you don't swing at me." Like if you're in a comfortable position and other people are behind, you can use this as a political card so easily.
Yeah, I
But if
think people will be your friend for the rest of the game if you
hmm,
can help them ramp up.
but if not, you just got a bunch of lands out that you can still win the game with. Uh, and then the final non-legendary card I want to talk about, Promise of Loyalty.
Oh yeah,
I
yeah, I like this one.
I love this card so much. Promise
It,
of Loyalty. Each player puts a vow counter on a creature they control and sacrifices the rest. So this gets around indestructible. This gets around a lot of other things that we talked about already.
yep.
However, that isn't even the best bit. Each of those creatures can't attack you or a planeswalker you control for as long as it has a vow counter on it. So every Voltron deck that only that is running one big thing, like Wylith from the previous years, or any other artifact equipment based deck, yep, no, you have to equip it onto something else that we just board wiped. Or every single Hydra deck. Oh yeah, you can make all your Hydras, but you can't attack that one like me, and you could just get rid of all of them. It's a 5-mana board wipe that secures your life total from those 3 creatures for the rest of the game.
Yeah, it's insane. Like 5 mana for just a board wipe is very good in white anyway.
Yeah.
It's like a sort of like a Wrath of God. But
Mm.
the fact that they can't control you, they can't attack you until the Val counter goes. And I haven't played against a single deck which has choose a counter, remove it kind of things.
Mm.
And so yeah, big fan of this. This is going to go in loads of decks.
Yeah, very much so. So those are the non-combat ones I really want to talk about. There's a few other cards that in this deck that I think are powerful, but other things that should be explored. Fame the Broker. He is a 2 and a black legendary creature, human warlock.
Oh yeah, Tom Hiddleston over here.
Yeah, Tom Hiddleston. Also, Tom Trading Post.
Yep.
This guy is like the 4-mana enchant artifact Trading Post, where he has a bunch of tap abilities that all feed off each other. So sacrifice a creature, put 2 +1/+1 counters on something. Tap, remove a counter from a creature you control, create a treasure token, sacrifice an artifact, create a creature. So you can cycle a lot of this through. And it also has 3 and a black, untap him. So you can do multiple of those every single time. Infinite mana. I think he's going to do well. So get a bunch of +1/+1 counters on stuff, and then create treasure tokens, and then get mana off that. I think will work really well.
Yeah, he's got a lot of options. I could see him being commander by himself.
So this is a very weird political card, though I don't know its power level. Neil's Discipline Enforcer. At the beginning of your end step, for each player, put a +1/+1 counter on up to 1 target creature that player controls. So you're making their creatures bigger, whatever. Each creature with 1 or more counters on it can't attack you or planeswalkers you control unless its control pays X, where X is the number of counters on that creature. So Hydras with 20 counters, pay 20 or you can't attack me. Fractals with 9 or 10 can't attack me. Well, split greens maybe not.
Yeah.
But I really like it. The issue is, as soon as you remove him from the board, they can attack you with the big creatures that you've been giving them for the entire game.
Yeah, that is one of the problems. But I am going to see if I can build a commander deck out of him by himself.
Okay.
I've got a few, went through my collection for all like the good white protection cards, and essentially it's going to be just like a you can't touch me kind of deck. But I need to think of
Yeah.
a win con because in mono white there's not that many win cons apart from Approach of the Second Sun.
Yeah, I was going to say I'd probably go for that one. And then finally, Felisa Fang of Silverquill.
Yeah.
4 mana to white black for a 3/2 with flying. Vampire wizard. She has mentor, which it was a Boros keyword from Guilds of Ravnica from a couple of years ago. Whenever a non-token creature you control dies, if it had a +1/+, if it had a counter on it, create X tapped 2/1 white black inkling creature tokens with flying, where X is the amount of counters it had on it. So this is a really weird way to take Orzhov or Silverquill, and I love it because it cares about you having +1/+1 counters on your creatures, and Inklings like getting stronger and just benefiting off you having a bunch of +1/+1 stuff on your stuff, as well as making creatures off it. I am looking forward to this deck.
Yeah, this it's a very, very good card. I like Felisa. It is and just this deck, like, a lot of people are undervaluing it, saying it's like one of the worst two. I think if you play against it, it's going to be just that part of it, that annoying, but also you're getting a lot of benefits from it, where that you won't be attacked.
It's very much like, and also if you have a lot of ways of like hurting yourself to make it so that you don't have the most life total, so people look the other way already. Like I'm very tempted to like put shock lands in this deck, shock them in, and then not do anything with it, just so I have less health, so people look the other way.
Yeah, it's nice to see an Orzhov deck that isn't life gain, life loss. It's just all
It's
about that
cool.
being tricky and like 1/1
Yeah.
counters, which I think White Black needs more of.
Agreed. Yeah. So speaking of what this deck might need,
Yeah.
what do you think?
So, what the first card is actually a commander that I have that I am essentially I'm gonna buy this deck, probably take it apart. I won't use it as is, and add so many cards to my Thales Reverent Medium deck. So it's a commander that came out in Commander Legends. It's 3 white black. At the beginning of each end step, create X 1/1 flying spirits, where X is the number of tokens you created this turn.
Nice. Okay.
There's a fair amount of token help in this deck. Especially things like Ink Shield.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Plus, it's in white, so a lot of more stuff like Anointed Possessions. Anointed Possessions is going to go up in price, I swear, because of the amount of good white token decks there are in this commander pile.
yeah. Then other cards. So any card with Will of the Council or voting, anything like Council's
Yeah.
Judgment. Can't have a politics deck without going around the table being like, and what do you choose?
How do you want to benefit me?
And you've got all those cards where it's like, you can vote a second time and stuff like that.
Um, I know this has been your part of the rundown, but I actually have a card ready to go in my deck, which I really like. I have some upgrades from other political decks I've made before. Play of the Game.
Yes, I saw that.
Yeah, so it's a 8 mana board exile board wipe, all non-land permanent, so it hits everything. However, people can help you pay for that mana. So you have to pay the white, but your opponents or your allies in that moment can pay up to 6 of the colorless mana.
Yeah, it is. I've got a similar one to that in here, which is Gang Up. So it's X and black. It's got assist, so another player can pay up to X, and you choose the value of X. So you just discussing that. Can you pay 3 towards it? And you destroy a creature with power X or less.
Nice.
So yeah, all those ones where you've got the voting ones. You've got there's Alliance of Arms, which I've got in here, which is a sorcery that just costs a white. It's got join forces. So starting with you, each player may pay any amount of mana, and then each player puts X 1/1 soldiers onto the battlefield, where X is the total amount of mana paid this way.
Okay. So that you can get a bunch of tokens and more tokens and more tokens. Okay, nice.
Yeah, so obviously, everyone gets the tokens. Your opponent will have a bunch, but it's sort of be like, hey, don't attack me. I just gave you, a bunch of tokens. I'm nice.
Exactly. So I think with this sort of style of deck, you have to ride the line between group hug and winning the game, because you want to be able to be like helpful to your friends. Like, oh yeah, look, take some life. You get some counters. You get some creatures, and then at the end of the game, you go ha 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 ha.
You fool! You shouldn't have taken all my gifts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You greedy person. Ha ha ha.
One card that I'm definitely going to add to my my Nils deck, when I'm making it up, is Sphere of Safety. It's 4 and a white. It's an enchantment. Creatures can't attack you or planeswalker you control unless their controller pays X, where X is the number of enchantments you control. I mean, just in this deck alone, there's 11 enchantments. You add in, Sphere of Safety, there's 12, and, it's...
Pillow forcing is a real thing.
Yeah, it's essentially just like a ghostly prison, but...
Yeah.
It's...
I remember I had one of my political decks. I had Sphere Safety and Ghostly Prison out. So every time they wanted to attack me, I was able to essentially just either negate the attack, or they had to pay so much that their turn was done.
Yeah. And then pick one more from a little list. Let's go for another card which stops attacks. Classic mono white card, Settle the Wreckage.
Yeah.
If your opponent does decide to attack you, despite the fact you've given them all these good free things, and it's just like, how dare you attack me?
And they've also they've paid all their taxes.
If they finally got through all that mana to be like, right, I can finally attack you. You're just like, no, I've got to pay 4 mana, exile all your attacking creatures. You do get that many, your opponent does get that many basic lands, but they come in tapped, so they can't do anything this turn.
And hopefully by that point, it's so late in the game that they've actually maybe running out of lands, or it doesn't matter how many lands they have.
Yeah. Yeah. So, the Silver Core deck I like. There's definitely some good cards in. It's one of the most valuable as well in terms of how much things cost. Because Deathbringer Liege is a card that we didn't mention, but it's one of the only cards in any of these decks that cost more than $10. At the moment, it's $13. It just gives all your black creatures +1/1, all your white creatures +1/1. So if they're black and white, they get +2/2. Whenever you play a white spell, you can tap a target creature, and whenever you play a black spell, you may destroy a tapped target creature.
So again, you can do both. So you can tap something and destroy it if you play a white-black creature.
Yeah, so it's good. It's a good card, definitely worth the money.
Something to also note: all your Inklings are also white-black. So instead of 2/1s, they've come 4/3s.
Yeah,
with flying, which is a lot more.
Yeah, it could be a game-winning card there. So it's a good reprint of that. But yeah, I'm a fan of this deck. It's definitely in my top 3, possibly top 2.
Definitely my top 2.
Yeah.
I'm going to be only getting 2 precons from this set, and the other 2 I'm getting are Law and Silver Quill.
Yeah. Well, we've still got one more deck to go through. The final one is the Witherbloom deck.
They definitely made us wait for this one.
Oh god, yeah, it was I'm sure there's a bunch of articles and stuff about how it's they loading ready run sort of botched the reveal of it, but to give it in a brief, simple sentence, they started streaming at 11, but decided to wait to reveal the deck until their 6-hour, 7-hour stream was done.
Yeah, which was like,
So for people like us in the UK, I think it came out about 1 or 2 a.m.
Yeah, something like that.
And luckily I was awake then, just because I couldn't sleep, so it was perfect. So I managed to get a sneak peek of it last night. But
I'm here for
it's they're definitely going to probably not have another deck reveal.
Well, at the very least, like, because I mean, they did the high. Their reveal video was very good. When they did it, it's just I think doing it with a pre-release because they do a pre-release.
Yeah, so
Uh,
that's a usual thing they do. But then Wizards are like, hey, sometimes they reveal a card
mhm.
in those things, and a card's fine, but they're revealing 99 cards that haven't been announced yet.
Oh, something I found very insane. I know this is very off topic. The professor, Tulane Community College, the one that's built his channel about being a community college, didn't get a Strixhaven preview card.
Yeah, people are saying that quite a lot of the time he, does get offered them, but he passes it off to let smaller creators do it, which I think is, very nice of him. But, come on, if he was to say yes to one set, it would be, the set
Oh,
about colleges.
yeah, like he was given Talarian Archmage from M21, Balerian, Baldwin, something like that, and he made it like he was a founding father of the community college, which was awesome. Anyway, we should probably talk about C21, not M21.
Yeah.
Witherbloom, the green-black life gain pre-con. Hope you guys like Swamp Druid aesthetic. Because that's what these guys are about. They love everything creepy and they goes bump in the night. So talk about a few things. It is Witch's Clinic. Tap for a colorless, or 2 and tap. Target commander specifically gains lifelink until end of turn.
Very nice card, can use it in any deck.
I think it will see a lot of play in Voltron type effects because sometimes the Voltron players don't have their Shadow Spears or Loxodon Warhammers.
Yeah.
So I think that's a very good card. We'll see a lot of play. Okay, this is probably the best card from the precon. Marshland Bloodcaster. 5 mana, 3/5 Vampire Warlock, flying, has 1 and black. Tap it. Rather than paying the mana cost for the next spell you cast this turn, you may pay life equal to that spell's mana value. This goes in every Crick deck.
Yep. It's like a Crick deck. It's like a one-use Bolas's Citadel.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely going to come in handy.
Yeah, because like Crick and Bolas's Citadel end games. So I am here for it.
Yeah, this one could definitely fly under the radar because as soon as I see a Crick out on the board, I will destroy it no matter how much of a target anyone else is. Whereas this card comes out, I'm like, oh, it's not going to be that bad. But
I have a turn. Okay, Trudge Garden. Whenever you gain life, so whenever you gain life, could be 1 or 20, you may pay 2. If you do, create a 4/4 green fungus beast creature token with trample. So, gain 1 life, pay 2, make a beast. Pay 1 life, pay 2, make a beast. Like, yes, please.
Yeah, this is definitely going to go in my green-white life gain deck, funnily enough.
Oh, 100%, yeah.
Yeah.
It's another win con for that. And then before we go on to the legendaries, Essence Pulse. You gain 2 life. Each creature gets -X until end of turn, where X is the amount of life you gained this turn. That is for 3 and a black at sorcery speed. So -X extravaganza at sorcery speed for not that much.
Yeah, it's definitely a sort of budget. Let me just make sure I got the card right. Yeah, it's like a budget toxic deluge.
Yeah, and instead of paying life, you pay just mana, and it's based off the amount of life you've gained, which is I'm here for.
Yeah, I like it. It's good.
Yeah, 100%. Next one, Sprout Back Trudge. This spell, it's a 9 mana, 7 green green fungus beast. This spell costs X less to cast, where X is the amount of life you've gained this turn.
Already very
So,
good.
so gain 7. If you gain 7 life in a turn, this costs green green for a 9/7 with trample. However, there's one more ability. At the beginning of your end step, if you gained life this turn, you may cast Sprout Back Trudge from your graveyard. So you gain. So it dies after the first time, whatever. Then on your end step, you have gained 7 life at your end step. You put that down for 2 green green again. Like it's going to be a very difficult card to get rid of.
Yeah, that is unless you can exile it from a graveyard, it's always going to keep coming back. Again, going to put it straight in the life gain deck.
Okay, now onto the commanders.
So you got Gnome Master Chef, 5/3 Troll Warlock with Trample. At the beginning of your end step, create a number of food tokens equal to the number of non-token creatures you had enter the battlefield under your control this turn. Pay 1, sack of food. Target creature gains indestructible until end of turn. Tap it. Yeah, I'm happy there's a food-based commander, especially after Eldraine. And it doesn't fit this deck that much. It's all about going wide and having a bunch of small creatures compared to this deck where it's about especially with Willow Dusk, it's about Voltroning a single card with 1/1 counters. Tivash, Gloom Summoner. 4/4 lifelink, 4/4 and a black. At the beginning of your end step, if you gained life this turn, you may pay X life, where X is the number of life you gained this turn. Very odd way of phrasing that. If you do, create an XX black demon with flying. Love this card. Him by himself as a commander or him in just any life gain deck is ridiculous. You essentially just sack all your life gain in order to
make a big dude to be able to win the game.
Yeah, just lots of benefits of this card. It's really good. You got Eudora, Grave Gardener. Whenever a non-token creature you control dies, you may return it to the battlefield face down under its owner's control. It's a forest land. This is insane. I love this card. The fact, I just love the idea that you have a Sakura Tribe Elder, a Steve out. You tap him, sack him for a land, but he also comes back as a land. So you're getting double the effects. And he's good. And then you've got Willow Dusk, the face commander. I like the ability on this. Took me a bit to sort of understand it, but pay 1 and tap Willow Dusk. Choose another target creature. Put a number of 1/1 counters on it equal to the amount of life you either gained or lost this turn, whatever's greatest. But you can only do it as a sorcery. Yes, definitely very, very useful. Either Voltroning or about 1/1 counters. Like this could go perfectly in my Zaxara 1/1 counter deck. And so there's a few cards which I'll mention a bit about which you can add to really boost this up.
Yeah, there's probably a few because of the amount of directions that this deck goes.
Made a list. Quite a lot of these are based around Willow Dusk because I feel like I made this deck before I could properly see all the cards. But you got things such as a card we mentioned earlier, Crick. So you can start paying life for your black mana, which will come in really handy because you'll be losing a lot of life, which will affect not only Willow Dusk, a bunch of other cards in your deck. Then another one I put is Crystalline Crawler, which is a 4-mana artifact creature. It enters with a 1/1 counter on it for each color of mana spent to cast it. So it'll only be 2 mana, 3 possibly if you have like a command tower and you decide to use it for a red. You can tap it to put a 1/1 counter on it, or you could use like Willow Dusk's ability to boost it up with 1/1 counters. But then you can remove a 1/1 counter from it and add a mana of any color. So you boost up with Willow Dusk, and then all of a sudden you get, let's say you lose 10 life this turn, you get 10 1/1 counters on it, which is 10 essentially treasures. You get little one-use mana buffs. I've got cards such as Corpsejack Menace. You should add. You get double the amount of 1/1 counters. One that I did see, which is quite expensive. I think it's yes, $20 to add. So it's definitely not a budget choice. Is uh Kakusho, the Evening Star. Don't know how to pronounce it. It's a dragon spirit. Uh, whenever when it dies, each opponent loses five life, and you gain life equal to the life lost this way. So if it's still everyone playing, you'll gain 15 life, which is very nice because there's a lot of cards in this where it's like, oh yeah, pay any amount of life, but you need some way of gaining quite a bit of life really quickly. Then I guess finally for this deck, you've got Vigor. So it's a 6/6 elemental incarnation for 6 mana, 3 and 3 green. It's got trample. If damage will be dealt to another creature you control, prevent that damage and put a 1/1 counter on that creature for each 1 damage prevented this way. So that could be damage that you're doing or damage your opponents are doing. And then whenever Vigor's put into a graveyard from anywhere, you can shuffle it back into your library. It's a very handy card. All you're going to do is give Vigor a bit of protection, maybe make it indestructible with an enchantment, and all your other creatures are, in a sense, indestructible. And, they get a bunch of 1/1 counters anytime they're dealt damage, and all you're going to do is have, a card which deals a bit of damage to your own creatures. And got some good combos you can do there.
Off to the races, yeah.
Yeah, I like this deck. What about you, Alex?
It is definitely a black-green life gain deck. It's doing a lot of good things. I think it has some of the best cards to take out, or like definitely some of the best commanders to build around. Like they said about Tavash Gloom Summoner and Eudora being just nutty. But yeah, it's also a light game deck, so it is one-dimensional in what it wants to do. However, some of the cards you recommended has definitely changed my opinion of it. Of putting Vigor and Crick in there, I'm just being like, oh, I feels like I can't lose at that point.
Yeah, I feel like it's going to be a lot more. There's going to be a lot more people who take cards out of this than add to the precon.
Yeah,
But
yeah, it definitely feels like a feast or famine sort of precon.
yeah,
Where
but
you either do really well or really badly.
yeah, you get 3 really good reprints in this though, which are all 3 artifacts. You got Alhammaret's Archive, which is a $15 card.
Yeah.
Whenever you gain life, you gain twice that much instead. And if you were to draw a card except your normal draw step card, you draw 2 instead. I've got that in my life game deck. I've got that in my drawing deck. Like, it's so handy. Then you got Well of Lost Dreams. Whenever you gain life, you can pay X, where X is equal to or less than the amount of life you gained. If you do draw X cards, really good way of getting some card draw. And then Venser's Journal. It's a 5 mana artifact. You get no max hand size. Beginning of your upkeep, you gain a life for each card in your hand. Again, I've got that in my blue draw deck because it's really handy. So
I think another card that is very good, and I'm very happy to see reprinted constantly, is Sanguine Bond.
oh yeah, that's very happy with that reprint.
Yeah, I think that's also because could be a win con for a lot of people in the community.
Yeah, infinite combos off with a load of different cards.
Yeah, which I think. Yeah, I'm looking for. I think this deck is probably the dark horse out of all of them.
Yeah, this is definitely my top 3, possible top 2. I think it's about equal with Silver Quill. I think this probably edges it out though, because I think I'll probably get this if I had a choice of 2. I'd get this and the token one, obviously.
So, just so since that's all of the decks and all of the commanders, should we rate them? Of like, so 1 being your favorite and 5 being your least.
Yeah.
I think we can agree on 5.
Yeah. Sadly, hang on. Let me get up. Let me get up the decks again.
Chris Murray.
Yeah, Prismari Performance, I would say, is last place. It's definitely got a few good cards in there, but it is probably the weakest out of all of them.
And is, in my opinion, the most boring because it doesn't expand on what the colors were already doing.
Yeah. Then fourth place, it's a tough
This
one.
this is where we might switch. Fourth place for me is Witherbloom.
Yeah,
It does a lot of cool stuff, but I think power level and doing new stuff, it just doesn't do enough to me.
for me, oh, I don't want to say Osgear because it is a strong deck, but I'd probably have to go Osgear for me.
Lord,
It's very strong, and it's definitely one of the better decks. But for me, it's just like I've already got a similar deck, and
fair.
I would love a Boros deck more about boosting up your own creatures. Like they've done a few Boros artifact decks recently, so me,
Fair enough.
they've done something slightly different, but yeah, I don't know. It's very tough. Like the top, literally the top four are all very close to each other, and then there's
Yeah.
Prismari.
Yeah, basically. Okay, what's your number three?
Three for me is Brina and the Silver Quill deck.
For me, it's Quandrix. Uh, I think it's a very powerful deck and it can do a lot, but at the same time, I think again they're not really treading new ground. They're just doing what they've always done.
Yeah, yeah, I can see that. And then with Silver Quill for me, it's not a. I feel like it's a deck that is made to you're going to need to add to it or take cards out and add it to a different deck. I don't think it'll do too well by itself.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the weaker ones out of the box. However, it isn't my number two. It, I love politics in terms of Magic. I love making deals, wheeling and dealing, talking to people. I am looking forward to playing it, though. There's only one boy for my heart, and he is a giant artificer.
Then second for me is going to be Willow Dusk in the Witherbloom deck. Like,
Okay.
uh, the more I look at it, the more I am a fan of it. There's some amazing reprints. There's some amazing new cards, and
Mm.
I Willow Dusk as a commander itself is it's very good. I do like the ability to get 1/1 counters. It's something a bit different, and it's not too much about sacrificing stuff, which is what you know uh, Golgari is normally about. It's normally about
Yeah. I
sack
think
stuff, but it's
I think
different enough.
yeah. I definitely think Witherbloom is the money pickup. Like if you want good reprints that will save you a bunch of money down the line, Witherbloom's the one to pick up probably.
Yeah,
But then finally, my boy Lawhold. Oscar. Yes, Oscar.
yeah. It's I could. It is good. It's a shame I put it fourth, but again, these are just so close to each other for me.
Oh yeah, like they could all flip for me apart from Lawhold and
Yeah,
Prismari. Um,
yeah.
Sorry to all the Prismari people, but
Yeah, I'm
no.
sure, I've never been that big of a fan of Is It, and this kind of deck just that doesn't help. It doesn't make it be like, wow, this is so much better. This is actually sort of worse. I prefer the small pokey spells rather than having to save up all my mana for a big 10 mana card that I need to have other cards out to double them or stuff like that. Then my number one is the Quandrix deck, the Twin Casters. One of my favorite decks was geared about token doubling and stuff, and just tokens are my favorite sort of mechanic in Magic. I mean, just looking at my collection, I've got Thales,
Ren and Siri.
I've got Ren and Siri, I've got Zaxara, I've got the Elf deck, and
Your
just
poor bank account.
yeah, there were just I have so many token decks, and so just this one is just a card where I'm just like absolutely ridiculous commander. Some good reprints in it, some good new cards in it, and it's definitely going to be one of the stronger decks.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah, that is Commander 2021. What do you think of it compared to like Commander 2020, for example?
Uh, I prefer this so much more. Ikoria was great, and what they brought partners back. They did 3 colors. It was amazing. But I'm looking at the lists. I'm just going. I want to build you. I want to build you. I want to build you. I could build you. While with the other ones, I was like, yeah, you're okay. You're okay. Like I wasn't very excited for last year. This year, I'm like, oh yes, please.
Yeah, so last year there was Cathril, which was about sort of keywords, and I haven't seen that deck played at all. You've got the human tribal one. Again, haven't seen that at all. Gavi Nestwarden, I've seen a couple of cycle decks. You got Calamax, that's probably the best one from last year.
Yeah, that is why that would be the commander I would play over Prismari.
Yeah, I mean, I literally just built a Riku, copy deck.
Yeah, and to me that is those Riku and like Tima in general are just strong is a stronger color pairing for Prismari
Yeah,
because you can ramp up to those spells a lot easier rather than relying on artifacts.
and then you got Otrimi as well, which I I got. It was the one I got because I was just like, I do like the mutate ability, and I just wanted to see how it would go. But there's until they reprint more mutate cards, everyone has the same deck list, and it's quite boring.
Yeah, like you can only really do so much with like set base mechanics. It's why Cathril barely worked for me, at least. I built a Cathril deck where because keywords are throughout Magic's history, you can choose whatever one from you and can experiment. There's only so many mutate ones, and there's only so many good ones in the colors you have.
Yeah, at least I do like how these 5 decks, the new ones, none of them rely on Strixhaven.
Yeah, they have a like help it or uh like
Yeah,
show what it could do. The
Zap.
only the only thing I'm upset about is that in the main set of Strixhaven, there's not a lot of artifact cares for Lorehold, which I'm like, why?
Yeah, you sort of have to go into your collection and look for different ones. The only one that sort of relates to Strixhaven is Zephyr, who's got Magecraft,
Yeah,
and Adrix and Nev have the Ward ability. But
yeah,
that's the kind of link you'd want between the two decks, between the two sets. Between they are technically different sets, being Commander and Strixhaven. But the fact they come out
yeah.
at the same time and the same logos and everything.
Fair enough. Well, is there any place where we could grab all these wonderful products that are coming out this year?
Oh, you're great at tangents and segues. So, yes, there is, fun enough, on tabletoprepublic.com. Uh, Under our Magic the Gathering section, we have Strixhaven available to pre-order. While it's still pre-order season, you get 15% off RRP on everything, rather than our usual still good 10%. And that's at a minimum. So if you get a box, it's 20% off at least. Some of the bigger boxes, I believe the trying to remember the math on the just a draft booster box. I believe that's either 25 or 30% off RRP.
So great value for all Magic the Gathering needs, as well as all other tabletop needs.
Yes, and also on pre-order we've also got Modern Horizons 2. Yeah, so if you want to grab any of that before if you think that you can grab it without looking at any cards being announced or anything.
How
Uh,
confident are you?
yeah, exactly. And then we've also got the pre-release packs, which I believe will arrive in store very soon. Let me see when does they come out? They come out on the 23rd. Yeah, so they'll be coming into store soon enough where people can grab them. And let me make sure I didn't get the dates wrong. 23rd. I've got I've got all kinds of different dates. I've got a bit weird. I need to double check that the site is all right. Yeah, Tabletop Republic. You get all your things. I'll be probably grabbing a couple for myself.
Likewise.
Yeah,
Well, I think
thank you
we
for joining
should.
me, Alex.
Oh, thank you for having me. I had a blast.
That was a nice 2 hour rant about the new Commander sets. Hopefully, people are still watching and enjoying it.
Yeah, hopefully, and let know if people enjoy it. We'll do this again next time.
Yeah, definitely. Hopefully, we'll do this again for either one of the the normal set precon decks or next year's 2022 Commander. I guess
We can
only time will tell.
Mm.
Yeah, thank you for joining me, Alex. Thank you for watching, anyone who is still listening to us. And we will catch you guys in the next video. Goodbye.